welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Chattanooga. I am the Reverend Mandy Goheen. My pronouns are she, her, and I serve this congregation as its minister of shared ministry. I am here today representing this community and representing a very special event in Unitarian Universalist culture, which is the auction sermon. And we'll be talking a lot about practices and the way we got to where we are today during this auction sermon. So welcome, but I want to open with the words or the question. What are you going to do that is important in your life? And that is a quote by Martha Sharp, who we will talk about again soon. Please join me in acknowledging the space that we are on. At UUCC, we acknowledge that our church sits on Cherokee, Muskogee, and Yuchi land. And this is our covenant of how we gather together, so join me in reading that as well. We journey together, bound in the interdependent web of existence. We embrace diversity, own our conflicts, and assume good intentions. When we fail, we begin again in love. Justice and compassion shall be our watchwords, and beloved community our goal. More words, but I don't want to read them. I'm going to invite M and Knox up to read our chalice lighting words as I light our chalice. Chalices are lit at the beginning of services and gatherings. It's a symbol of religious freedom. It's a symbol of a space where we can be together. And when we come together lighting this chalice, we are forming beloved community. So please join M reading the words.
In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share.
Thank you. And one of the traditions in this gathered community for people who are comfortable and have consent to stand and greet your neighbor. If that is not something you're comfortable with, you can fist bump from your seat. You can just wave hi or smile. We want to welcome people into greeting each other in a way that is comfortable for you and builds community. So please rise and greet. We'll start singing in a minute. I'm going to hug you. I said I was going to hug you today. Hi, Skip. Good morning. I've seen you around somewhere before.
I have a giant rock collection and my
Hi, how are you? Welcome. Have you been here before? Okay, well, welcome back. I have breaking news. I broke my tooth on a piece of candy. The same one. I know, it's literally breaking news. I told Andre I had breaking news. I just broke my tooth on a piece of candy. It was already broken. Yeah, they're probably I kept my father. And the first time it happened, it was the Mary's seed, those seed crackers that are awesome. You should not really a cracker. You ready? Help you out with this? I did not. Layla did. Please join us in song.
Let none forget the joy
for that wonderful cry. Please be seated. We learn a lot around here. And speaking of learn a lot, I would like to invite Christian up to share a question, which was, was your story growing up that really was important to you, or a story you told? So Christian's going to bring that to us today. And here's a mic. I do. Do you want me to clicker for you?
I'll tell you then when. Okay.
Anybody
all
who's
the
young
children,
who wants to come up?
come on
up.
forward. It's gonna be fun. I promise
gonna
you
be
guys.
fun.
It's gonna be a lot of animals. So just come on forward, whether you're an animal or not.
Oh, we have oh, there you go.
So let me first ask, how many of you are fluent in German?
Not even me, bro.
Okay.
Oh.
So the book here is in German, but don't worry, I'm not gonna read it in German. You just look at me. So the story that I picked is actually from my childhood. As I read about it, it was published in 1972, so a year after I was born, by Mira Lobe. She was actually born into a Jewish family in Schlesien, so that's on the corner between the Czech Republic and Poland. Then moved due to kind of the Nazi time into Palestine at the time, what it was called, and then actually in 1950 moved back to Europe, and actually then to Austria. So I thought she was an Austrian writer, and so I learned more about her. And Susi Weigel was kind of doing the drawings for this. So the story that it's called here, Das kleine Ich bin ich, means that the little I am me. I am me. Or you could even say I am I. So I leave this to the English teachers here. Let's move on to the next slide. I found an English translation that is not as brilliantly done as the original in German, but it's still good enough. So, in a bright and flowery meadow walks a colored animal, roaming through the green grass, glad to hear the birds, while all the pretty butterflies flit past. It likes to see them in the air, but little animal, beware. For then a tree frog comes its way, ribbit, and asks it, "Who are you?" The little creature, in surprise, looks the frog straight in the eyes. "Who am I?" it asks the froggy. "I don't even have a foggy notion who or what I am." Croak, the frog laughs. Ribbit. An animal without a name. If you don't know what you are, I call that a crying shame. So there. So off goes the little creature, out into the world, off to find a helpful teacher, someone brainy, a real whiz, to tell it who or what it is. "Hello, horse. Hello, foal. Aren't you both like me? Don't you think that I'm a whole lot like you, so really we could be just the same? Do you know my name? Whichever way I look at it, I simply cannot seem to hit on who or what I am." "Hello," says the baby horse. "You have a mane and your hair blows in the air, but of course your legs are too short and your ears are too long for a horse. You must be wrong. Of course, you're not a horse." So the animal sees a little lake with something moving in it, so he gets into the lake. So let's move on to the next slide. Shorten the story a little bit. "Hello, good morning, little fish. Oh, you don't know how much I wish that you could help me find my name, because I don't know who I am. And that's why I swam along to ask you, who am I? Oh, who?" Then the fish, both large and small, swam along, and one and all say, "Wow, my word," in great surprise. Can they really trust their eyes? "Sorry, little one," they say. "You have eyes, so do we." They have very similar eyes, don't they? "You can swim a bit, we see, but whatever you wish, you'll never be a fish." Let's go on, next slide. "See the bird perched on the tree? Its tail is hanging down behind, as colorful as yours and even brighter, I would say. Go and ask that jungle bird whether it has ever heard, as it flies on its way, of animals feathered or furred like you. and where they stay. The animals say, thank you. Taking to the air, its hopeful little heart is singing after that tail as it goes winging. Listen, listen, parrot dear. Don't I look like you? My coat is bright by day and night. Am I a parrot too? The parrot stops and stares. It screeches as it glares. No, you silly little thing. I'm a pretty Polly. Your idea's folly. However long your tail may be, you'll never, ever look like me. So go off on your own and leave me alone. Going through the streets of a little town, walking up and down, the colored creature meets outside the baker shop a pack of dogs tied up, tugging to get free, to run and skip and hop. Dogs large and small, tiny and tall, with coats smooth and shaggy, with tails all waggy. Dogs who do tricks, some risky, some frisky, dogs who fetch sticks. Tell me, doggies, tell me true, if maybe I'm one of you. I'm muddled up, I don't know why. Please tell me what, and who am I? A sausage dog would suit me fine. Their floppy ears are just like mine. All the dogs, large and small, bark at the little animal. You don't have a coat like the dogs in this town. You are brightly colored. We are black and brown. It's easy as falling off a log to see that you're not a dog. Next slide. All along the streets, the little creature goes, following its nose. Aren't I anything? Am I not one of those? I'm not anything all the others say. Tell me, I'm not like them, and I should go away. I'm not a hippo, a fish, or a horse. I'm not a dog, or even a flea. I'm not on any list. Maybe I don't exist, and I would not be missed. The little creature starts to cry. It sobs. And what am I? Not a cow, a goat, or sheep. Tears of sorrow I must weep. But then it pulls itself together, stops and says out loud, true, it's a fact. I'm not one of a crowd, but of course I'd be missed because I exist. I am me. It is back in the old meadow where the pretty flowers grow, butterflies flit through the air, and there's no need to beware. It tells the others, sheep and cow, horse and foal, and goat, that now it has found out who it is. Don't you see? That I am me. And the others, bleat, and neigh. They win it, and they moo. Yes, of course, they all say, you are you. Even the frog croaks, ribbit, you are you. Only fools won't see that too. So there.
Yeah, all right, you want more? Oh, more. All right, it's time to sing our children off to religious education. Good thing I'm a professional chalice lighter. So before we start, I want to explain what's going on. Some folks here are new. Some folks have been or weren't here last week, but we are focusing on water this month. This month is Earth Day is coming, and we are switching our ritual around a little bit from fire to water. And so last week, I invited people forward to drop a stone in the water, which I was going to use and didn't get around to water plants. I still am going to do that. But today's the same thing, and if you remembered and took a rock home and brought it back with you, with all the things that you might have loaded up on it, you can put it in the water. If you want to do that this week, you're welcome to get a stone and put it in the cleansing water to represent whatever joys or concerns you've had. I would like to start us out in a little bit of silence just for a few moments, and I'm going to light a candle. The Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and the Unitarian Universalist Association has come out clearly with a call for ceasefire. So we're going to light this candle and take a moment in silence for ceasefire, and then I'll invite you up for stones of joy and concern. I don't want to make you feel like you have to hug me like last week. You can. I'll be over there a little bit, so it's not so much pressure. Not all of us are huggers, and that's fine. We all are us, right? So I'm going to invite you into silence. Anyone who would like to come forward and put a stone in the water, you're welcome to. all that we share is sacred. As we gather together, may we remember that when you share with me what's most important to you, that is where listening begins. When I show you that I hear you, when I say your life matters, that is where compassion begins. When I open the door to greet you, that is where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you shelter, that is where love begins. When I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that's where courage begins. When we experience the full presence of each other because of our shared humanity, because of our differences, that is where holy gratitude begins. May this space be a table that is not complete until we are all welcome. May this table be a space of beauty where together we create a series of miracles where we are all sacred and all that was brought forward and put in the water is sacred.
Gather round people wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, and you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone. The times they are a-changing.
Oop. So first of all, if you don't know why an auction sermon happens in Unitarian Universalist churches all over the place, it's because it's one of the things that ministers love, which is to donate a sermon to an auction. No, really. In the Ministers Worship Collaborative chat right now, we're all talking about it. It's important to us because it's a cool challenge for something that seems random and non-Unitarian Universalist to come home into being part of this place. And so when people ask me, are you really doing a sermon about Austria? I kept saying, yeah, I really am. I really do think it's awesome. I think it's awesome because one of the things that we benefit from in this church is the culture in Austria of celebrating and doing cool things outside. I'm not mentioning any people in particular from Austria that help us do that, because I promised. My heart is always with art. And so when I begin research, I oftentimes look into art history to gain my understanding of a people, of a place, and why they're important. It's a way to look at the commentary of what's going on in a particular landscape. It's a way to find out what my roots are. So when I looked up Austrian art, I found that some of the original 3D art in the world was discovered there. Now this is really cool because people brought these into this area of settlement. These stones didn't originate there. There is some talk, these are called the Venuses. There are many of them. They're Stone Age artifacts. What's cool about them is the beauty standards were a little different during that time period. If you notice, no face. Well, in that period of developing and becoming what we now call humanity, the ability to bear children well would have been a symbol of beauty. I also was curious about, was this an erotic image used in a different way? And I looked that up too. And many historians would like to argue with me, but I get to think what I want because this is Unitarian Universalism. Art continues to inspire us. I think the reason people were concerned about me doing a sermon about Austria is there is an infamous expatriate of Austria who's, I said expatriate, by the way, who became the Chancellor of Germany. We're very familiar with that. What we're not as familiar with is what Unitarians were doing during this time period. And I see the heads cocking like, how the world is she going to do this? How is this going to happen? And I got y'all. I got you. Because I see the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. The chalice that we lit during the time where the Unitarian Service Committee was getting specifically children and thinkers out of Hungary and out of France. They were actually in France during the occupation and got to stay a little while. There were these groups of people, specifically Reverend May, who was talking to one of the people on the service committee staff, a man from Austria, a Jewish man, and he was an artist. And Joy May, Reverend Joy asked him, could you draw a symbol for us? We need something that is an official stamp that when we are creating papers to get people across the border, that it looks official. So I'm going to read you the story really quickly, and these are the words of Reverend Joy. In March, at first it opens it up. Joy felt because the USC, Unitarian Service Committee, was new and an unknown organization, it would need a visual image to represent Unitarianism in the world, especially when dealing with government agencies abroad. And then I quote, "I happen to have an artist working for me. Recently, I asked him in his spare time to work on a symbol of our committee, which could be placed on a seal and used on our documents. When a document may keep a man out of jail, give him standing with government and police, it is important that it looks important." So Hans Dutch went to work designing something, and the result is as follows. And here's a letter he wrote. "Unitarian Service Committee, I have made it up to seal, not because I had any idea of forcing this upon the committee without consulting them, but because these things cost very little here, and at least it will serve temporarily as an expedient way to mark who Unitarians are. Personally, I like it very much. It's simple, chaste, and distinctive. I think it might well become a sign of our work everywhere." And that is the beginning of our chalice. Our chalice comes from an idea of holy oil burning. And so this image started taking off with all this cloak and dagger spy movie kind of life of these Unitarians getting people out of Germany, Austria, anyone who is Jewish specifically, out and into the United States. In fact, there was an aid office in France, and see this chalice symbol on the top of the bag of aid up there? And the sharps are very important. I read a quote from Mrs. Sharp at the beginning. So these two people, Unitarian Universalist minister and his wife, have a brand new baby. And the war is breaking out, and the United States is not on the side of getting folks out. And so Winslow Sharp, his name's hard for me, declared war on Nazis from the pulpit, which is also important. We have freedom of the pulpit in Unitarian Universalism. It means that we're here to challenge you. It doesn't mean we're here to tell you what to say or do or think. It's to get you thinking on your own and to take action. And if he had declared war on fascism specifically, he felt he had no choice other than to leave with his wife, and they went into England first and learned spycraft, which is kind of cool, and then eventually got to France, and then when they were in Portugal, they met with Hans, who designed the chalice. This was a dangerous time for any kind of religious freedom. When Hungary and Czechoslovakia started being taken over, there were Unitarians in the Czech area already. And we get our flower communion, actually, if you're here later on in the year. Our flower communion comes from this exact same time and this exact same group of ministers who are working very hard for justice and to get people out. Specifically, they were worried about how aid had been cut off, and so they were responsible for negotiating with Nestle and getting thousands and thousands of pounds of dried milk into the area to help children. And they were very smart because the Sharps used the midwives to distribute the milk and kind of went around the government. It wasn't always safe work. It isn't safe to be a dissenter always. And it started out that they did get kicked out of France. Eventually their office was sacked and there were arrest warrants out for the Sharps. But that didn't deter them. They kept doing the work. In fact, they were responsible for bringing children to the United States before the immigration was completely open, and worked around the numbers that immigration had imprinted on how many Europeans were allowed to come, and they got around this loophole of bringing kids. And it's pretty fascinating. They got a ship's ballroom and had 30 kids in this ballroom, all coming over from Europe to America, with a lot of people, including Unitarians, ready to foster them and to take care of them until their families could get here. Oop, too fast. Too fast. When I read the prayer a moment ago, it was actually inspired by the Sharps, specifically Martha. And that's the opening words I was giving you were from Martha, the question about what are you going to do with your life, basically. And she was asking that question of her grandson later when she was reflecting on her life. The blessing was written to honor the Unitarians Martha and Waitstill Sharp, who during World War II dared to risk their own comfort in order to help save the lives of those who were in desperate need. They got separated. They had scary moments. There's a story about Martha going and helping people get out of, they were in hiding, and she took a taxi to go where the person was in hiding. And there were 2 people in the taxi, and she's very nervous. Remember, she's mostly an English speaker, and she's riding in this taxi, and they pull up and drop her off, and she gave them a different spot, all the whole secret spy stuff. She gave them a different spot because she knew that there shouldn't have been 2 people in that taxi. Well, it turned out the other person in the taxi was an undercover Nazi agent. And so she stood in a doorway in the shadows and didn't breathe and watched as he walked by looking for her. After the coast was clear and she got to the person whose name was Mr. X, she didn't even know who he was. She helped Mr. X get into transportation and onto a train. And so the trains were blocked. People are in the, I don't know great geography, but you had to go through Germany to get on the train to get out of occupied land. And so she created false paperwork for many, many important thinkers to get on this train across the landscape, including there were agents on the train, and she didn't know who to trust, and they would tell them to get on and off, and it was very exciting, and it's very, very Unitarian to have done this. In fact, it's so Unitarian that you see here, defying the Nazis, the Sharps wore a film by Ken Burns. And the name underneath, Artemis, is their grandson. And he helped write and bring their letters together to create this movie that I would really encourage you all to watch if you want to know more about the history of where Unitarians were during this time and how our Unitarian Universalist now service committee still serves people who are in danger and in the plight of war. They bring aid to many, many people. And I had no idea Austria would bring me here. And that is kind of the moral of the story of Unitarian Universalism. It's interesting, we go on these quests, we ask these questions, and because we are like the little creature in the story, sort of unique and have a different way of thinking, we might wind up here. In fact, Martha Sharp wound up in Unitarianism for the same reason many of us do. She grew up in a family that had different values than she did about women. And when she received a scholarship to attend college, she was kicked out of her house for accepting it. And during that college education, that's when she met her husband, and they decided, and here's the part that I have a rough time with, they decided to leave their kids behind and go into danger to save people. But the reason she kept giving herself and she kept thinking about was it was so important. She was so focused on children and getting children out of that area of trauma and war that it was worth it. In fact, she wrote a letter to her son, which is read in the movie as well. I also want to tell you that the narrator's Tom Hanks. So I'm just saying, Tom Hanks reading our words is very exciting. I just want to say thank you, too, to bringing this documentary back to me, Christian specifically, and I spent yesterday watching it again with my jaw open going, oh, and it just brought a new reason and light to why people are important and our history is important and art history is so important. It teaches us all these different pathways to resistance and ways to shine and hold our light. And that's what I want to come back to, the chalice. It is the holding of our light. It is the understanding that we are all different, but we have a space together to think and practice love and religious freedom. And that is the auction service 2024. Do I have water? I do. Sandy.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
You're hearing me? Sandy Kurtz, she, her. The social justice subject for this month is water. And so for the next couple of Sundays, you'll also hear about water. But I got to thinking, what is it that I could tell you about water that you don't already know? Water is life. We know that. In fact, life is water, too, for some. So you already know, when it comes to social justice, you already know about Flint River, likely so, and the polluting of the drinking water to low-income areas and the brain damage coming to those children as they were drinking that water. You know, you've probably heard about fracking and the explosions that happen underground, that earthquakes getting the gas out, but it poisons the water in nearby homes, their well water. That's in Pennsylvania primarily. You've heard about, you know that we have a lot of water here in Tennessee, so we're blessed with that. In fact, the second largest amount of rainfall in the country, they say. So what could I talk to you about? I'm going to talk about fish. Social justice for fish.
Yes.
That's what we need. So we do have one of the most diverse assemblages of wild native fish. We have some other invasive fish too, but in North America we have 285 species of fish, and here 57 of them are considered at risk. So fish are pretty amazing creatures. They can remember musical tunes. And if you can train your fish to respond to your singing. That would be good. They did a test on that. Fish have memory about that, I guess. Specific song they played for fish before they released them into the wild, and 5 months later the fish returned. This sounds like salmon. when the song was played at sea, they would come to hear the music. It's nice. We have two state fish. The smallmouth bass is the official state sport fish, and the channel catfish is the state commercial fish. That's all about economics. Nobody talks about justice for fish. So I'll tell you a couple of stories. In 1908, the Champion Fiber Company decided they wanted to build a paper plant along the Pigeon River in Canton, North Carolina. And it's 37 miles upstream from the Tennessee state line, and it's very near the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Beautiful scenery, lovely small town, and there's a lot of employment happen because of that paper plant. But it requires large quantities of water to produce, to make paper. We have bowl water up the line here ourselves, up the Tennessee River. The Pigeon River was just really not big enough to handle the waste that was being discharged from the plant. And when they started the operations, then the river turned black and foamy. And dead fish were collected by the wagon load at bends in the river. And so the Pigeon River, in essence, became an industrial sewer. So for many, many years, EPA allowed sort of doctoring of the permits that they were giving to the company. And they did that water quality testing, but they did it 37 miles downstream at the Tennessee line. So the Tennesseans were testing the water, but Carolina was allowing the testing that was much more diluted when it got to the Tennessee line. 37 miles, there were actually two other big tributary rivers that came in before it got to the Tennessee line. So fish were, what we were told at the time, environmentalists got in this. The Tennessee Environmental Council was key in fighting EPA and getting the paper company to shape up. When we were talked about the fish and the deaths of all those fish, when you put out a discharge into the river, it hugs the shore. And so you would see some of the pollution coming down. It was visible. You see that stream coming down the edge of the water and over toward the middle. And what we were told was that the fish were dying, yes, but they could swim on the other side. That was how you saved the fish, was to get them to swim to the other side. So finally, not till 1997 was there an agreement. They started up in 1909, and there was agreement finally that strengthened North Carolina's permits and reduced the allowable level of pollution by almost 50%. It's still really not clean enough, but it no longer exists. And actually, just last year, the Canton packaging, it became a packaging company, and it closed last May. And of course, the sad part was they laid off 1,000 employees. So in that small town, that was a major economic blow. But the fish are feeling better. The second story I want to tell you is about social justice for fish when it comes to electricity production, primarily nuclear energy. When nuclear energy requires a lot of water to actually get the electricity to come across our wires, and right now TVA is producing about 40% of your electricity that comes from nuclear energy. That's why the reactors are located along rivers, along Tennessee rivers, because they need that water. And what they do, what you do is, anytime you want to make electricity, you have to boil water. So they boil the water, in this case, by atomic fission. They're blasting the atoms, and that creates heat, and that heat is sent over to boil water, and the water is in a big reactor, and in order then, the water is so hot after the heat turns the turbine that creates electricity and goes down the wires, then you got this hot water. What do you do with it? Well, you have to cool it off, and the way they cool that hot water that's radioactive, they cool it off by bringing in cold water from the river, the Tennessee River. And there's a heat exchanger thing happens. The radioactive water passes by the cool water, and some of the heat goes into the cooling water. And the cooling water then goes into the river, except not all of it goes back in the river. Some of it goes to the cooling towers, and you've seen those shaped cooling towers. The cooling water then is evaporated up away from the river, goes somewhere else. The wind carries it somewhere else. Meanwhile, what water is left that has been heated by the heat exchange goes back into the river. And if it's not supposed to be too hot, because that hurts the fish. So again, they say fish swim on the other side. Go on the other side. There is also a drift community. These are creatures that don't have many ways of moving on their own. They just drift along. So they're drifting along in this warm water. If it's not too hot, everything's probably okay. However, with climate change coming, the water in the river is getting hotter, and there are rules they have rules right now at least, that say that you can't put water back into the river if it's too hot. And with climate change, there's going to be a lot of those opportunities for water to be too hot. In fact, it's already happened once up here a few summers ago. Watts Bar closed down because the water was too hot. So this is not crazy stuff. So the fish have to swim around the hot places. Not good. So these fish need justice. So think of streams with non-polluted, non-nuclear water shaded by tree canopy. So you can keep your streams cool, your rivers cool with trees. And we can, in that way, we can work to avoid signs that say, do not eat the fish. You've seen some of those. So that's it for this Sunday. I'll talk to you next Sunday about something else.
This is a time in our service where we collect our offering. The offering goes to the lights in the building and to paying our staff, to many things. It's part of the way we can give back to create communities that are ready to fight for fish. And really most anything that is creating damage and impacting our environment, which we love. This is, when I say it pays the electric bill, we are one of the proud churches in town. Are we still the only church in town with solar panels? So we are trying to do our part. The other thing that's really cool, good news, is we have moved over to all electric lawn equipment in the last year. So we are trying to do our part, and we need your help to take care of the environment, quite frankly, in our church community. And in that spirit, the offering will be gratefully received. Sometimes I wonder if she's challenged by what'll make me dance around during different parts of the service. Most anything for the record, but that was a hard one. Please join me in the offertory response. We give these gifts freely, committed to our mission to care, create beloved community, awaken hearts and minds, resist injustice, and act with compassion, embrace life and care for the earth. To this work, we dedicate our offerings. Okay, this song, she didn't know, is very important to you ministers, so thank you for picking this one. I'd like everybody to rise in body and or spirit as you're comfortable and join us in our closing hymn. You know the tune. tune. We knew that tune. So go watch Sharp's War. I think it would really be worth it. I think that a lot of folks here are newer to Unitarian Universalism, and it would be a really great introduction to how pretty much anything you Google and write Unitarian Universalist after, you will find something. First of all, that was one lesson we've learned from this, right? Also, we have consistently been a space of free faith. And every time you see a chalice from now on, you can remember that we are the symbol of free faith and forward thinking and committing to love. So have that on your hearts as you think of chalices from now on, or you wonder why on earth this cup with this fire even started. I think of that symbol in the windows of those churches in Europe during a very dark time, when people could see that and know there was a space where they could be who they were, just like the space where you can be who you are here, or the little I can't remember exactly. And that's so what? Have fun, learn more about Unitarian Universalism. I bet you would be surprised where we turn up, which is almost everywhere. Please join me in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but keep the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world. Woohoo! Announcement time. It's time, announcement time. Sorry, I will not make up any more. You come for you. Come on. Come on. Oh, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's new chalice is on the front of your orders of service, in case you were wondering what that symbol, the front, that is their current logo. So I thought that was cool. Are we fighting over mics? Here you go.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So I'm Carol Hobbs, chair of Art on the Walls exhibits. Unitarians are very serious. They're also very creative and like to have fun. The exhibit that is going on this month and next is called Spring Fantasy, and it's the creation of 6 of your members. And I want to give you a brief tour. So this lovely painting is called Skip's Cherry Blossoms, and it was created by Stephanie Clark. You have to get close to really appreciate it. It's hundreds of pistachio shells dyed with cranberry juice. Stephanie Clark.
That's very you, y'all.
And the toilet paper.
And toilet paper rolls. Oh, I'm so proud of you.
I'm going to have them stand at the end. We can give them applause. Next to that, Leslie O'Rear is sharing her spring banner. She's well known by many of us. She's got a commercial art background, and then she added another last-minute creation. And I had fun with buttons in the last corner and fun with chopping up old paintings and weaving them together. Over here, Carla Upchurch has created kites for us. And when the fans are going, they move just a little, and that's fun. We have Spring Trees by Jen Horning. This is her first foray into painting.
Wow.
We know Jen as a masterful fabric arts artist, and so she's sharing.
Good cook, fine bartender, all the things.
So we are enjoying her spring trees. In the next cubby hole, we have Karen Groton's woven fabric scene of spring. Very lovely in an antique frame. And in the very last cubby hole, we have Sarah Lord's Spring Fantasy that's very glittery. So if you're here today, artists, please stand up and we'll give you a thank you applause.
Hi, I'm Dylan Kuzman, he, him, his. I am your board president, and the stewardship airplane is still flying through the friendly UUCC skies for one more week. We are in our stewardship campaign. Thank you for any and all of you who have participated in that campaign. Because of you, we have added more faces to our airplane out front. You make sure you check and see the airplane is almost full. We got Bessie Coleman in there, the first African-American female stunt pilot is on the plane. We had to get her on the plane. We have Amelia Earhart in there. Cesar Chavez has gotten on the plane, the Reverend Martin Luther King. Margaret Cho, great actor and AANHPI hero. And also Angela Farrell Zabala, the new executive director of Moms Demand Action, is also on the plane.
Yes.
But we still have 6 seats that are not full. They're not full. So if you haven't taken part in our pledge campaign, you still have another week to do it. Wanted to let you all know we're going to have a donor appreciation lunch here after the service next week. So after the service at 12 o'clock, we'll have some sort of light fare. If you've participated at that point, or if you want to participate at that point, because the food looks so good, you're like, maybe I'll make a pledge to get to eat some of these fine, delicious sandwiches. You'll be free to do that next week, and we will wrap up the stewardship campaign, and you won't have to listen to me anymore and talk about this stuff. But since I am here this week, I just wanted to ask one of our members to come up and give a testimonial about why they support this place, why this place is important to them, and why they've made a pledge to the pledge campaign. So Stephanie, would you mind just coming up and giving a brief testimonial?
Okay, so John and Gary, you can load up my PowerPoint. Did you get, you don't have one? Did you give it to them? Did you get it?
You had that.
Did you get it off the table? We worked so hard on a presentation about why we love it here.
Oh my goodness.
It was about a 14 or 15 page PowerPoint. So we'll try to remember what we put in it. And I guess we won't have the pictures. There were about 15 pictures, but someone forgot to get them off the table. So that's okay. So what I wanted to just talk about when Dylan asked me to do this was why I really like this community at UU. And it started about a year ago. We started coming to Potluck, and we started feeling like, wow, all the best people come to Potluck. And we would have a really good time and great conversations. And then we started coming on Sundays. And the sermons at first were a little hit or miss. No offense, Mandy. But you know what? We started feeling like, or at least I did, you know, you might have a week where you're not your best self. And I would find that after listening to Mandy's sermons, I would leave feeling like my soul was a little lighter and I could approach the week as my best self. I always found some nugget that really spoke to me. And so then we joined choir. And I should introduce myself. I'm Stephanie Clark.
Mike Clark, him.
Yeah. And so we joined choir, and we were like, all the best people belong to choir. And we just started having so much fun with everyone. And then we took a class. Reverend Pam was teaching a class about the Old Testament and Hebrew Scriptures. And we found this family in that class. Hi, Charlotte. Hi, Sam. And we just had so much fun, and we felt so connected. And I guess that's what means the most is that connection of this found family and people who you can be yourself around, and you don't have to wear a mask. And do you want us to talk about too? I don't remember which slide you were on.
Yeah, that PowerPoint thing is a joke, in case you didn't get it.
And also, I started doing the coffee hour. And on Wednesdays, the first and third Wednesdays of every month at 10 o'clock, we do coffee hour. And right now, we're doing books that shaped our journey. And when I say I felt like I met this found family and I could be myself and everything, what I realized is I would ask these people in the group questions like, from kind of a provincial Pollyannish, church people point of view. And so like I would find myself saying, well, did you work outside of the home? And then I find out this whole thing, like that this person was this activist that changed legislation and court cases. And you start to realize like this person, oh, that's the history person. But they have this whole rich history of like being an activist for social justice, or that's the art person. And then you find out they've done so much with visual artists and sculpture and things in our community, or that's the environmentalist person. Hi, Sandy. And then I find out that this person has just, done all these been involved in a court case about nuclear waste and influenced education planning. And it's just made me realize that there's so much that I can do beyond this little box that I had put myself in of who I thought I was. Sorry, you can go.
I'll try to make mine really quick. I don't, just kind of going off her experience, it was kind of the same for me as far as like a family, because I guess the best way to explain it is this place kind of brought me out of my shell. I was kind of, I work at home, so I don't see my coworkers, and I would just hang out with Steph. We didn't go out much. And I don't know, I came here, excuse me, and everybody is just so nice. It is like a family. And, I'd never sung in choir before in my life. I did that. I would never even consider speaking in front of a group of people a year ago. And, yeah, I mean, that's what it is. The place just makes me comfortable. And
So you can just... If you're a member or not a member yet, or thinking about being a member, or you come sometimes, it's great that you can be as involved or as little involved as you want to be. But do think about making a pledge, even if it's a little one, to kind of keep the place going and keep the lights on. Because we're kind of in this phase, I feel like, of building this new, really solid core foundation. And so that's kind of what we'd like to encourage.
no, I'm done, thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
And to follow that amazing testimony, I'm Layla Rose, she, her. So first of all, music. They mentioned choir, and this wasn't part of my announcement, but let me know if you want to join choir. But additionally to our regular choir, Jen's daughter, Ellie, all on her own, decided to request a children's choir. So we are going to do a children's choir. If you are between the ages of 3 and 18 or have somebody in your home between the ages of 3 and 18, please, if you'll look at the screen, come here to UCC at 10:15 a.m. on April 28th, and we will have our first rehearsal. There is a flyer out back on the announcement board that has a QR code for the song, a YouTube link for the song. So I know for my kids, if they hear it, they learn it. So if your kids learn that way, there you go, use that. And we are going to have a pianist who is 11 years old. So it's gonna be really fun. And secondly, as some of you know, we like to celebrate some of the pagan holidays here. So our next one is going to be May 5, which some of us know as Cinco de Mayo, but we're going to be celebrating May Day right out here. There's a maypole. We're going to have a maypole dance. Anybody is invited. It's a lot of fun. We have do we have music? No. We do a dance. But anyway, yes, we'll do a little practice. There is going to be a story and craft for the kids. We will have food, a little bit of food. And on that note, we have a request. If you could sign up to bring some finger sandwiches or tea or lemonade. Is there a sign-up sheet in the back for that? Okay. Look on the announcement board, put your name down for that. Finger sandwiches, gluten-free, vegan, regular, all options are great. And last but not least, as part of our May Day celebration, we're going to have a pet blessing. So this is something that I've never participated in before, but I'm excited. So if you know your pet can safely be around a large group of people, please bring your pet. We would love to have your pet. If your pet is not okay with a large group of people, like my cat, who would probably plot my murder if I brought her here, bring something that represents your animal, a picture or the pet's collar or something like that, and we're going to have a little pet blessing ceremony. And that concludes my announcements.
Hello, my name is Camille Mason. I am the Director of Religious Education. On April the 28th, we are going to have a clean-out day of the Spirit Playroom. Downstairs is currently kind of our storage area because we cleaned out the nursery, and so we want to be able to have classes in there in August. And so after church on April 28th, we're going to have the clean-out day. We'll have pizza and all that jazz, and if you have a truck or would be willing to help us clean out, we'd really greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Dady Springer, she, her, whatever. and Jen and I, where is Jen? Behind me, okay, are here to give you some information about the Passover Seder, which you see up on the screen there. I'm going to give you some background so you'll sort of know what to expect. It's happening on Friday, April 26th, right here in this very sanctuary. It'll look a lot different than it looks like right now. As you know, probably, Judaism is one of Unitarian Universalism's sources, and the holiday of Passover is a major Jewish holiday, and it's been observed in UU churches for longer than I've been a UU, and that's a long time. Passover celebrates the biblical story of the Israelites' escape from slavery in Egypt. It's known as Pesach in Hebrew, which can be translated as passed over. And it's a time to come together with friends and family to celebrate the lessons of the story, the blessings of freedom and family, the blessings of freedom and the reminder to work for freedom for all people. At the UU Seder, we'll learn more of the Passover story as we read together from a UU version of a text called a Haggadah. Haggadah means telling. Kids play an important part during it. Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. Get rid of it. Excuse me. I don't know what happened. Not enough coffee, I guess. But during the ceremony, a number of kids are needed to read parts of the Haggadah. And after the ceremony, all kids will be invited to find the hidden afikomen, a piece of matzah. Whoever finds it will be rewarded with a giant candy bar. And they can decide whether to eat the whole thing or maybe they'll want to share it. So please, bring your kids. We guarantee they'll have fun. And last but not least, after the ritual reading, we'll be enjoying amazing traditional foods. Jen will tell you about the food and how to sign up. And then I think she's got even more announcements. We're full of announcements today.
Does this work? Yes, it's on. Okay. And I apologize. I know we're going over time and everybody's antsy, but I will try to make it snappy. Okay. So for the Passover Seder, we are going to try to keep within kosher guidelines for food. There's a lot you can do within those guidelines. I have them right here for you. This is posted out here on the Seder table. You've got the no list and then the yes list. Okay. Different regions, traditions, groups of people have different kosher guidelines. These are the ones we're going with. So if you're online and you look up a kosher for Passover Seder recipe, you might find some that include some things that we are not including. So whatever you find, you need to compare it to this list, okay? To try and make it easy for you, here's your swaps guide. So if you look through your recipe and you see some dairy, you find some rice, you find pasta, we have alternatives provided for you to choose from so that will give you more options And you can think of some of your favorite potluck recipes or some favorite things that you served at home, and you can maybe convert those into something that's kosher for Passover. To make it even easier, we have compiled this big notebook full of recipes that are already kosher. Any modifications have already been done for you. You can just pick something out of this book if that's what you want to do and follow it exactly the way it says. You can take the paper out of this book. You can also take a photo of it and take it home if you want, whichever is easier for you. Last year, and there really are, I mean, it looks like a long list, but there's really a lot you can do with it. Last year we had a huge feast. We had so much food. People were telling me they were in a food coma by the end of the night. It was really fun, so I encourage you, don't be scared off. I am happy to talk with you about anything. If you've got an idea or if you're not sure about something, I'd be happy to talk you through it. We also have a new form out today. This is a reserved seating request. This room we're going to set up several very long tables. If you have particular seating that would help you best enjoy and participate in the Seder, for example, you'd like to sit towards the front of the room where the people are speaking so that you can hear them clearly. There's a lot of standing and sitting in the Seder ceremony, so if it would help you to have armrests on your chair or a chair at the end of the table, if you need a place to store a mobility device, something like that, this is an opportunity for you to tell us that so that we can find a seat for you and reserve it for you so that you'll be most comfortable and everything will be most accessible to you. There are sign-up sheets out there for both food and for attendance. It's really important if you do plan on coming that you tell us that to make sure we have enough seats. For whatever you're bringing to eat, we also prepare those cards to identify whatever that food is, and we put it out on the table for you. So hopefully everything can be really smooth when we come in. Last year we had about 70 people, so that was a lot of everybody coming in all at the same time. We want to try to make it as smooth as possible for you and for us. All right. So I think that's it for the Seder. Was there anything else? Oh, people to help. Yeah, we have, and I didn't bring them today. It was the one thing I forgot to bring. We'll have some sign-up sheets for help. I will be here at some point on Thursday to try and set up some tables if anybody's available on Thursday. I'll try to get that out in the newsletter this week and to put some sign-up sheets out. But we'll need help to move tables around on Thursday. And then Friday afternoon, starting at what, about 3? About 3, some people to come and help us actually set the tables and just set the buffet tables and prepare everything. So if that sounds like something that you'd be able to do, you can let me know, or you can wait for the sheet next week. A couple more. Books and Beyond, this is our next pick. It'll be for June 2nd. It's going to be hosted by Gail Audier, who's not here today. It's The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. There is a trigger warning for this book, and it's printed right here in the back for you, so you can take a look at that. Sign-up sheets are in the fellowship area. We also have a sign-up sheet out there for anyone who is interested or practices an earth-based spirituality, or if you're just curious about that, we'd love to schedule a meet and greet. And right now I'm just checking for availability. We'd like to do that in May sometime. So if you could add your name to the sign-up sheet also and tell us, generally in a week when you're able to get together, we'd love to meet everybody. Last thing. The altar decoration and maintenance has for the last couple years been done by a very small group of people. We would love to open that up to anybody that wants to participate. So we have a little guide here. You can read through it at your leisure. There are also sign-up sheets here with specific dates. Every sign-up is a 2-week commitment. There's also my email right there if you have any questions for me. But this will tell you how to do the tablecloths, how to do the plant, the flowers, what have you. All of our supplies are free for everyone to use. They're in a cabinet back there under the big wooden question mark. Question mark is not correlated in any way to what's in the cabinet. There are also a couple of small chalices in there, and they're more on the way. One of our artists has agreed to make us a couple for you to use in your small group meetings or any other gathering that you have here at church. If you want to use chalice, y'all are free to use that stuff. I will be up here next week at 10:30 to do a little tutorial on how to change the lighter wand wicks. It's helpful if you can see it. If you can't make that, we'll book another time, some other time. But anyway, take a look at this and see if you might want to sign up to help out with that. And I think that's it. Is that it?
What? Oh, I didn't mean to say it like that. What? Yes? Okay.
Mandy, next Sunday the band is performing for church.
Oh. Oh. This is so important. I would have been so embarrassed. Not really, but dress up like your favorite nature thing next week. We're going to be dressed up like nature for Earth Day. So we don't know what that means. Surprise us. So definitely do that. The band will be here. I'll be here on the third Sunday. We're going to do our Earth Day celebration. And Sandy, Stephanie mentioned the book group. My eavesdropping onto the book group the other day, and Sandy have helped feed the information to create the service for Earth Day. So thank you for that. So we look forward to seeing you. I know you're not going to remember all that stuff that we just talked about. We have a newsletter, lots of people to answer questions, and are you ready? Our service is ended. May our service begin.